Hello there and welcome to a special Members' Choice edition of Witchfinder's Gaming Vault. The game I'm going to be looking at in this video is International Basketball for the Commodore 64, and this was chosen by my level 3 member Old Scott Retro, who said it's one of his favourite games and him and a mate used to play it almost non-stop. Just a reminder about how membership works on my channel. There are 3 different levels starting from 99p, and depending on which level you choose you get more perks. And the highest level includes the opportunity to pick a game for me to play in either this series or Modern Retro Review, and that's obviously what Old Scott Retro has done. While I'm here though, I'll say thank you to all my channel members. Your support is greatly appreciated. Let's now take a look at the fact file for International Basketball, and this was released in 1984 in the UK. It was published by Commodore and it was developed by Andrew Spencer. This was one of the games I bought on my retro shopping road trip last year. Check out the video for that if you haven't already. I actually bought 2 copies of the game that day, with the second one obviously being better quality, which is the one I've kept. The price I paid for it was £2, and the current going rate for the game, if you want to pick up a copy on eBay, you can get it for about £2 to £5, so not a very expensive purchase. Here we have the packaging for the game, and as you can see it's a clamshell style, which I am a fan of. They're very retro, aren't they, the clamshell. You've got the VHS videotapes in them from the rental store and things like that, but that style clamshell, you won't see that these days. Anyway, so on the cover you can see it's for the Commodore 64, unsurprisingly. It requires a joystick. There's a picture of some guys playing basketball and it says International Basketball on it, and also the Commodore logo at the bottom there, and a very sort of fancy British looking crest there as well. I don't know why that's there. On the spine it just says International Basketball with this blue kind of wraparound style to the packaging, and on the back we've got a screenshot of the game, which as you can see it's a side view basketball game, unsurprisingly, and it says International Basketball is a realistic game demanding strategy and skill. Basketball can be played by 2 players or by one against the computer using joysticks. To play against the computer, select one of the 9 levels from novice through to expert. A level 9 opponent plays superb basketball, passing crisply, shooting accurately and playing a tough defense. Or should that be defense, since we're talking about an American game. A level 1 team is eminently beatable, a good opponent for a young child. 3 players are employed on each side instead of the usual 5, and you can choose from whether to play NBA, NCAA or international rules. And then there's some copyright information for Commodore business machines. Can't say business. Anyway, so there you go, that's the outside of the packaging. Let's take a look inside. So this is quite hard to see, but it is pretty cool. It's really reflective, but you can see that the clamshell on the inside has got Commodore computer sort of emblazoned in it, like sort of etched in it almost. It's not etched because it sticks out, but yeah, nice bit of work there by the creators of the clamshell. Anyway, let's move on to the actual cassette. As you can see, very straightforward, white label, just says International Basketball on it on both sides. And over to the instructions, pretty simple again, just one piece of paper with some printing on each side. It's got things like the game description, we've already covered that on the back cover, setting up the computer, how to load the program, 6 steps for how to load the program, basically just press shift and run stop, how to start the game, and then it's a list of the special keys and functions, so you can select the colours for the home and away teams, select whether you're going to use a computer opponent, and also select international NBA or NCAA rules. And it also tells you about the joystick controls. And on the other side we've got the movement, so it tells you how to move your players around, how to pass and things like that, and finally some strategies of how to play. International Basketball is a highly addictive game, with every match becoming more exciting as you and your opponent develop better tactics and strategies to create a top class squad. You need to be constantly on your toes to bring home the cup by learning to pass well, catch the ball and position your player to be in control of the field. So there you go, that's the instructions. Pretty simplistic, but they do the job nicely. Let's load the game up and see what it's like. Okay, so this is a surprise. We have actually got a loading screen for this game, and it actually says here that it was released in 1985 rather than 84, so I'm a little bit confused there. As you can see, copyright Commodore Business Machines. It's a very basic title screen or loading screen, white text on a brown background. You have, however, got the time it's taken so far and also the number of blocks remaining, so it gives you an indication of how long it's going to take to load. Also a scrolling message across the bottom there giving you details of other games that are available from Commodore. I guess that was what it said. Stop the Express there. It does say Commodore, such as International Soccer. Well, you'd expect to see that. Jack Attack's even got the prices, $14.99 for Jack Attack, Fantasy 5 $9.99, Stop the Express $5.99, and many others. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that. This also seems to use Nova Load for the loading program, which I expected was a much later thing than 1984-85. To be honest, I associate that sort of fast loader kind of thing with a few years later typically, but I don't know, whatever. Anyway, there you go, the game is loading, and hopefully, well, we know it's going to load in 61 blocks, which will take, I don't know, probably about another minute and a half or something like that. The game has loaded then, and after a title screen which is now gone off, you're presented with this screen, a green background with two basketball players competing over a basketball, and the Olympic Rings logo in the middle at the moment. Now, if you've ever played international soccer on the Commodore 64, this screen will look very familiar, because this is your player colour selection screen. So when you press F1, you will cycle through the colours for Team 1, and when you press F3, you'll cycle through the colours for Team 2. And also F5 will switch it to basically single player mode, and this is the difficulty level of the opponent. So let's start by changing some colours. Let's go with white versus blue, and then I'm going to go computer player. I'm going to start with level 4, and also when you press F7, you can choose whether you're going to play Olympic rules, NBA rules, or NCAA rules. I'm not sure exactly what all the differences are. One thing I do know is that Olympic rules, you play 2 halves, whereas NBA rules, you play 4 quarters. So I'm going to go with that. I'm probably only going to play one game of this game because, well, you've all seen basketball. It's not like I've got to explain the game mechanics of it too much. You've got to run around the court and basically beat your opponent. So let's get started. What I should mention though is that if you don't start selecting these game options, it does go into a demo mode, but we don't really need to see that. So let's get on and play the game. In fact, this is what the demo mode does. It has these cheerleaders waving their pom-poms around, which is a very nice animation considering when this game came out. And then eventually it goes to the court. I think there are some differences between the 3 different game modes in terms of the way the court looks as well. So I'm the white team and my opponents are the blue team. It's 3 versus 3. The first thing I've got to say about this game, obviously lots of basketball players are black. We know that. There are some white ones as well. So you've got 2 black players and 1 white player per team, at least for these 2 teams. That may randomise. But the black players are literally black. They've used black to colour all the skin and everything, which is a bit questionable, I would suggest. The opposition scored, by the way. I feel like they could have made the court the pale brown colour and done the lines in white, and I've got another chance at getting a basket here. There we go, that's 2-all. And then used the brown colour that they used for the court for the black players, and that would have looked better, I think. I mean, I don't know what I don't think, I don't like it. It's just weird. I can't even explain it really. It just seems, it's not racist, obviously. It's just strange that the programmer chose that. So the programmer, by the way, if I didn't mention it, I can't remember if I did. He also did international soccer, so that's why this looks very similar. The animation of the players, the that selection screen at the beginning, stuff like that. It's got a similar sort of vibe to it. I'm pretty sure international soccer came first. In fact, I'm almost 100% sure of that. So yeah, obviously the aim of the game is to play basketball, and currently I'm winning, having gone 2 down, and that's the end of the first period or quarter. I think they're quarters, or is it 3? I don't know. I think it's quarters. So in terms of graphics, you've got pretty nice representation of the court. It scrolls nicely. You've got some audience members in the background. You've got some advertising hoardings with Commodore, CompuNet, and Johnny's Funk, which is a bit strange. So with it being 3-on-3, there's not too much to worry about positional type things. It's just basically just position your guy as best you can to receive the ball from throw-ins and things like that. Are they called throw-ins for Basketball, I'm not sure. Let's call them throw-ins. If it was football, it'd be a throw-in. That's twice I've missed. Let's have another try. There's obviously a point at which you're supposed to let go of the ball to shoot, and I haven't quite worked that out. Yeah, there's a lot of just throwing it at the backboard. The other thing you're supposed to be able to do, according to the instructions, is switch between players, which I presume you do by pressing fire, but that's proven difficult for me. It just seems like it keeps the one guy selected, and when you're chasing the game, you can't switch to the closest guy, which is the typical way these games work, is that if you press fire, it'll switch to the closest game to the ball. I don't know what happened there. Closest player to the ball. So in terms of moves, you've got quite a few moves. Why did it switch to him then? That made no sense. This is not the most exciting game of basketball. It's very easy to steal the ball off the computer player, certainly at this difficulty level. It's a very low scoring game for a game of basketball, this. But listen, I've just been able to run the whole length of the pitch, stand right underneath it, and then it's very easy to score a basket. What seems to be difficult is scoring one from any sort of distance out. It's possible I should have set the difficulty level of the opponent a little bit higher, because they do seem to be terrible. Why did he throw that back then when the player that was lit up was the guy up front? I don't know. Anyway, so that's 2 out of 4 quarters done. And yeah, it's not the greatest game of basketball you're ever going to see. In terms of moves, I mean, you've got a long pass. You can pass at any point. So you could pass back to this guy. Why have you passed back to him? Why wouldn't you pass to the nearest guy? There we go. So you can pass between your 3 players. You run the length of the pitch, not particularly quickly, but the animation's nice on the players. Again, it just seems very difficult to score from anywhere other than right. Oh, that might go in. No, from right under the basket. You can steal, as you've seen me do. You can also block shots by jumping up in front of the basket, which maybe I'll try and do now just to show that. There you go. Did it. Actually worked, although he's got it straight back and scored. But anyway, you get the idea. Yeah, this is a terrible game so far. Sound effects, I'm not sure you'll even hear them. I suppose you probably will a bit, but they're very just basic sort of bouncing noises. That was for me holding the ball for too long. Bouncing noises, and also whistles and occasional crowd applause, although it's very muted. So not much in the way of sound effects, but graphically it's a pretty decent looking game for the era, much like international soccer, and it plays pretty well as well. It's it's a pretty competent basketball simulation. It's probably lacking a few bells and whistles, and obviously only having the 3 players does make it a bit strange. There's a nice little pass and move there, and again, scored again. I think victory's probably assured at this point. You get this a lot. The computer players just throwing the ball out from their throw-in thing. And now I've lost it from standing around too long. If you don't move, I think it's if you don't move within 3 seconds, then there you go, that's the end of the 3rd period. Then it's a foul, basically. I don't really know the rules of basketball. I used to play basketball at school when I was a kid, which is pretty ironic given at that point I was probably about 5'4" tall. But then I suppose early years of high school, maybe everyone was, or not much taller than that. But yeah, I wasn't. I don't think I was on the school basketball team, but I definitely played it pretty regularly. So they're probably just sort of humouring me because I was interested in basketball, but wasn't really tall enough to play it. So 12-4, and victory seems assured. But yeah, I've not scored anywhere other than from standing under the basket, which is a bit disappointing. Why are you trying to shoot from there? Oh, that was as close as any other shots, to be fair. There we go. Close as any other shots that aren't right in front of the basket. So that might be something of a flaw in the game. I don't know. That it's quite hard to score from anywhere but right in front of the basket. Or it might just be that I haven't quite got the knack of when to let go of the ball when you're shooting from distance. Which is usually the case with these games, is there's a sort of sweet spot for hitting the ball or throwing the ball at the right point when you jump up in the air. Why would you do that? You're right in front of the basket. Why would you pass it all the way back to the guy further back? I don't know. But a foul was committed for some reason. So off we go again. Let's do a bit of passing. No, he intercepted that. Not a lot of time left. 12 seconds or something like that. I think I definitely should have set the difficulty level for the computer player a little bit higher. It is quite slow. That's probably the big criticism. And there you go. That's the end of the fourth period, and victory is mine. Yeah, movement is quite slow. It would be probably better if it was a little bit faster. But as a basketball simulation, it's pretty good for the time. There are better ones that came later. Fast Break's one that springs to mind. But overall, yeah, it's pretty decent. At the end here, you get a cup awarded to the winning team, which was mine. And yeah, overall, it's pretty nice. Like I say, there are some other game modes you can play, Olympic or NCAA rules. Not sure exactly what the differences are. By the way, if you're wondering why, because the title screen's back, it says cracked by the nasty boy at the bottom there. That's because I was loading the game up, but it crashed, so I had to load it off an SD card. And it's a cracked version, although the only crack is literally it's got that person's name on the title screen. So I'm not going to play another round of the basketball. I don't think it's really necessary. You've seen enough. Overall, pretty nice game. Definitely one I'm going to keep. I do like the packaging for it, and it's not really worth a great deal of money anyway. It's just a nice thing to have along with my copy of International Soccer on cartridge. So here we go. As I mentioned, it does eventually go into a demo, which you might see a little bit of here now. While I'm talking. So just to round things off, I need to say thank you very much to Old Scott Retro for picking this game. If you want to have that opportunity to pick a game yourself, then check out the options for membership by clicking on the join button underneath this video. If you've got any thoughts about the game, then please let me know in the video comments. And all that remains now is for me to spin the wheel of names to find out what game I'm going to be playing next. And it is, of course, back to the normal standard of picking a game from my shortlist. So let's spin that wheel. And the next game I'm going to be playing is Legendary Axe for the PC Engine. So that'll be coming along in a few weeks' time. In the meantime, stay tuned to my channel for more retro gaming content. Thanks very much for watching this video, and until the next time, see ya!